Hey you, it's Lexi. So today we're going to be talking about Croatian Alcatraz. Now, this is a place that is so shrouded in secrecy that a lot of people don't actually know what happened there. Now, I went there during my summer vacation and I don't think I've ever experienced heat this way. It is so hot. I am literally sweating like from every single pore. It's like drenched. Yeah, it's next to Sveti Grgur, which is the female prison island. Now, I've been going to Croatia for a long time, and I had only recently heard of these two islands. And I'm not even sure that a lot of people in Croatia or even former Yugoslavia that are alive today knew what was happening on these islands. I think going to these places, this island, when I went to the male prison island, I think it was the hottest place I have ever been. And I've been to Equatorial Africa. The island name itself is called Goli Otok, and this means the naked island. I have even heard it being referred to as the Devil's Island or Hell. So the prison islands of Sveti Grgur and Goli Otok were used during the Stalin-Tito split, or the Yugoslavia-Moscow split. So what happened is people who were thought to be Stalinists or pro-Soviet communists, whether they were actually these people or whether they were just said to be or known to be or just accused of by their neighbor or anybody who just didn't like them, they were then put on this island. And honestly, I think it's pretty rough. So when you go to these islands, you can walk around and see what it was like there. And the conditions were not great. Yes, at the moment I'm just walking through something that would have been the prison. You can see like this is the wall, this is the roof. It's crazy, kind of, to think that people were imprisoned here, like women were imprisoned here, and there's no insulation, nothing, and it's actually pretty recent. It's not like it was like 100 years ago. It's literally like within the last 50 years. The prisoners themselves built the islands from nothing. They built all the barracks, all the factories, and even planted all of the vegetation that you can currently see on the island today. Now, today it is a bustling tourist attraction, especially the male island. You can go on a train ride around the island and see everything, or you can do a hike and experience it for yourself. If you want to go to a more tourist populated one, then you would go to Goli Otok. If you want to go to a more abandoned and have a more intimate experience of a prison island, then I would go to Sveti Grgur. So I went to both of these and the experience is so creepy and eerie. And the reason it's so eerie and creepy is because of what happened there. The prisoners weren't put in prison in your usual sense of the word that we know today. Instead, the prisoners were the persecutors, and the way that they did it, the whole point of this type of prison was to dehumanize and psychologically redevelop people to prevent the communist fifth column in former Yugoslavia. So Stalin was constantly sending assassins to kill Tito, and Tito was obviously not very happy with this, and so this is why he built these two islands. If you look back on history, Tito is known as a benevolent dictator. However, if he was so benevolent, I don't think he would need two islands to imprison people that were basically impossible to escape because of how much security and scrutiny they were under. Another reason that we also don't know so much about it until today is because in the news at the time, these islands were kept very taboo. nobody really wanted to talk about it. So I will describe some of the punishments that were done there, and I found this information on the Washington Post from a guy, an author called Antonije Isakovic, from his interviews of former prisoners from Goli Otok, which is the male prison island. He said that the inmates were forced to torture and beat each other. New arrivals and unreformed prisoners were forced to run through a corridor and be whipped by the other inmates. Those who didn't make it were forced to point out the prisoners who hadn't hit them hard enough. These prisoners, along with the prisoners who had made it to the end of this human corridor, were then forced to run through the corridor themselves, and this is called the Croatian. Again, sorry if I mispronounce anything. Croatian is not my native language. So the persecuted became the persecutors. Isakovic then went on to say, just try to imagine what someone's mind goes through if a friend reports to you while you were trying to be kind. So the amount of prisoners that went through these islands is anywhere between 6,000 to 50,000. The real report, nobody actually knows. And the amount of people who died through this torture and imprisonment, again, nobody knows. The island statistic that I could find was around 600 people, but because they didn't have to report these things, no one actually knows how many people suffered or died on these islands. So now, because of this secret history and not really knowing what goes on there, when you go to that island, you can feel that it's really heavy. Not just your own experience. As I said, when I was there, it was probably the hottest place I have experienced. No wind, the sun is just being reflected off the white ground into your face, onto your body, and it's insane. Now today, Goli Otok is quite overrun with tourists, I would say. If you wanted to get there, you can get there from the mainland or from Rab Island, as it's now part of the Rab municipality, and you can take a tourist boat that goes, I think, 4 times a day, varying at different times. If you want to go to Goli Otok, I would suggest going much later in the day or early in the morning, because the middle of the day it really is too hot to walk around and get a really good sense of the island. However, if you wanted to go to the female prison island, you can wander around the infrastructure all by yourself and really see what it was like to be a prisoner there. However, to get there, you would need to hire a private boat or hire somebody to take you there, or if you know a friend with a boat, ask them very nicely to take you there. There are restaurants on the island where you can grab a bite to eat if you're hungry, and definitely get some water and some ice cream because it is really, really hot. You can also visit during winter, however, I'm not sure, this is not something I have ever done. Obviously there'll be less people there, but I also don't know how often you would be able to go to these islands during the winter, and it would also be really, really cold. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, please comment, do whatever you want, and subscribe. I post videos once a week, so hit the notification bell to make sure that you don't miss out on another travel story. And I hope that you learned something today that you didn't know about before. I hope you feel a bit more connected to the world and to the places out there. And if you want to go and visit these places, I highly recommend. It's a really, really interesting experience. And I hope that you allow it to change you and make you a better traveler and a much more compassionate person. Have a good day. See you next week.